Baiklah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, dan juga tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, baiklah, kita telah terima isyarat. Diumumkan ketibaan yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Faisal Rafiq Muhammad Adikan, Naib Canselor Universiti Sains Malaysia, diiringi tetamu-tetamu kenamaan yang lain. Baiklah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, dimohon untuk duduk. Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu Faisal Rafiq Muhammad Adikan, Naib Canselor Universiti Sains Malaysia, Timbalan-timbalan Naib Canselor Universiti Sains Malaysia, ahli-ahli jawatan kuasa pengurusan Universiti Sains Malaysia, ketua-ketua jabatan, ahli-ahli senat, pegawai-pegawai utama universiti, tuan-tuan, puan-puan dan seluruh warga kampus yang dihormati sekalian. Selamat datang ke perjumpaan Naib Canselor bersama warga Universiti Sains Malaysia 2022. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, majlis dengan segala hormatnya ingin menjemput Yang Berusaha Al-Fadil Al-Ustaz Muhammad Syukri, Pengarah Pusat Islam, bagi memimpin bacaan doa. Majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Ila hadrati Sayyidina wa Habibina wa Syafi'ina Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Summa ila arwahi walidina wa muallimina wa dhawil huquqi alaina ajma'in. Al-Fatihah. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. وقال ربكم ادعوني أستجب لكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم. Segala puji dan puja buat Tuhan Ar-Rahman yang telah menurunkan Al-Quran di bulan Ramadan penuh keberkatan. Selawat dan salam buat junjungan Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasul pilihan dan imam ikutan, pemberi syafaat kepada insan yang berselawat. Syafaatkanlah kami ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam dengan keberkatan Al-Quran dan keberkatan Ramadan. Hanya dengan syafaat-Mu dan kasih sayang Tuhan Ar-Rahman kami menadah tangan keampunan, memohon hajat dan permintaan agar kami ditempatkan di syurga Firdaus tertinggi yang dihimpunkan melalui pintu Ar-Rayyan. Allahumma ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim ya Arhamar Rahimin. Sesungguhnya Ramadan Al-Mubarak kian hampir meninggalkan kami. Di penghujung Ramadan yang tersisa ini ya Allah, kami pohonkan ihsan-Mu ya Allah, agar Engkau kurniakanlah kepada kami kekuatan dan kemanisan iman dalam beribadah, lebih-lebih lagi di sepertiga malam yang terakhir. Allahumma ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim, temukanlah kami dengan malam Lailatul Qadar dan pilihlah serta jemputlah kami dengan kelembutan kasih sayang-Mu ke dalam kalangan hamba-hamba-Mu yang bertakwa, yang mendapat rezeki keampunan-Mu pada malam Lailatul Qadar. Allahumma innaka afuun karim, tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana wa liwalidina warhamhuma kama rabbayana saghira wa li jami'il muslimina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minat al ahya'i minhumul al amwat. Allahumma ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim, Tuhan yang maha mendengar rintihan hamba, Tuhan yang maha mendengar dan Tuhan yang maha melihat. Dengan penuh kekurangan dan penuh kelemahan, kami persembahkan amalan dan ibadah agar puasa kami diterima. Kerana-Mu kami berpuasa. Dari itu terimalah amal ibadah kami, terimalah taubat-taubat kami, dengarkanlah doa-doa kami. Janganlah Engkau tinggalkan kami dalam keadaan berdosa, melainkan Engkau sucikan kami dari seluruh dosa dan noda kehidupan kami. Allahumma ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim, janganlah Engkau tinggalkan kami dalam keadaan berhajat, kecuali Engkau santunilah hajat-hajat kami, dengarilah doa-doa dan permintaan kami. Allahumma ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim, janganlah Engkau biarkan Ramadan ini berlalu pergi, melainkan sesudah Engkau ampunkan seluruh dosa dan noda yang telah mengotori kehidupan kami, melainkan Engkau ampunkan seluruh dosa-dosa kami, dosa pasangan hidup kami, dosa anak-anak kami, dosa kedua ibu ayah yang kami kasihi, dosa saudara mara kami, dosa teman-teman sahabat-sahabat tercinta, dosa guru-guru para pensyarah, dosa seluruh umat Islam di timur dan barat di dunia ini ya Allah, sama ada yang masih hidup maupun yang telah kembali kepada-Mu ya Allah. Allahumma ya Ghaffar ya Syakur ya Mujibas Sa'ilin. Allahumma ya Allah, kami berhimpun pada majlis pertemuan Datuk Vice Chancellor bersama seluruh warga keluarga Universiti Sains Malaysia dalam keadaan berpuasa ya Allah, di bulan yang penuh keberkatan, bulan Ramadan Al-Mubarak. Dari itu ya Allah, cucurilah rahmat kepada kami ya Allah, cucurilah hidayah kepada kami ya Allah, cucurilah keberkatan yang melimpah-limpah kepada seluruh warga keluarga Universiti Sains Malaysia ya Allah. Kurniakanlah kepada kami para pemimpin kami, khususnya yang kami kasihi yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Faisal Rafiq bin Muhammad Adikan, Naib Canselor Universiti Sains Malaysia yang kami kasihi. Cucurilah kepada beliau keberkatan, kerahmatan dan keampunan yang seluas-luasnya daripada-Mu ya Allah, serta kurniakanlah kepada seluruh pemimpin Universiti Sains Malaysia dengan balasan nikmat syurga-Mu di akhirat nanti. Allahumma anzilir rahmah wal maghfirah bi barakatil Quran wal Ramadan. Allahumma antas salam wa minkas salam wa ilaika ya'udus salam. Fahayna rabbana bis salam wa adkhilna al jannata darus salam. Tabarakta rabbana ya dzal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim, Aidil Fitri bakal menjelang tidak lama lagi ya Allah. Pastinya kami bergembira untuk pulang ke pangkuan keluarga, menyambut kepulangan sanak saudara kami dari perantauan. Allahumma ya salam, justru itu selamatkanlah, sejahterakanlah kami atau anak saudara kami di sepanjang perjalanan pulang nanti ya Allah. Hindarilah kami atau sanak saudara kami dari barang musibah yang tidak diingini. Moga-moga pertemuan kami bersama keluarga tercinta akan mengukuhkan ukhuwah dan mahabbah kerana-Mu ya Allah. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafaruqana min ba'dihi tafaruqan ma'suma. Allahumma ya Allah, jadikanlah pertemuan pada pagi ini pertemuan yang diberkati, dan perpisahan kami selepas ini adalah perpisahan yang Kau redai, dan Engkau membawa kejayaan kepada Universiti Sains Malaysia yang tercinta ini. Allahumma ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim, jadikanlah Ramadan kali ini bagi kami Ramadan yang dapat mengubah diri kami, yang dapat menjadi insan yang lebih bertakwa, lebih bersyukur, lebih cemerlang dalam kehidupan dan segala pekerjaan yang kami persembahkan buat universiti, buat penilaian-Mu di akhirat nanti. Kami mohon juga ya Allah, panjangkanlah umur kami beserta afiah kesihatan dan ketemukanlah kami dengan Ramadan yang akan datang. Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa illam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna minal khasirin. Rabbana 'alaika tawakkalna wa ilaika anabna wa ilaikal masir. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Taqabbalallahu minkum minna wa minkum.
Amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Majlis merakamkan penghargaan kepada Yang Berusaha Encik Muhammad Syukri Osman, Pengarah Pusat Islam, atas pimpinan bacaan doa sebentar tadi. Baiklah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, kita akan ke acara utama selepas ini, iaitu ucapan oleh Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Faisal Rafiq Muhammad Adikan, Naib Canselor Universiti Sains Malaysia. Akan tetapi sebelum itu, majlis ingin menjemput para tetamu yang masih lagi berada di pintu hadapan untuk mengambil tempat dahulu, dan pastikan anda berselang satu kerusi antara satu sama lain sebagai penjarakan yang telah ditetapkan oleh pihak penganjur. Terima kasih. Baiklah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, sudah tiba masanya kita ke acara utama. Marilah sama-sama kita berikan tepukan yang gemuruh kepada Yang Bahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Faisal Rafiq Muhammad Adikan, Naib Canselor Universiti Sains Malaysia, bagi menyampaikan ucapan. Dipersilakan.
Terima kasih saudara pengurusi majlis. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi washabbihi wa barik wa sallim. Qala Allah ta'ala fil kitabil aziz wa a'iddu lahum mastata'tum min quwwah wa min ribatil khail turhibuna bihi aduwallahi wa aduwakum wa akharina min dunihim la ta'lamunahumullah ya'lamuhum. وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ شَيْءٍ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَفَّى إِلَيْكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تُظْلَمُونَ. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera saya ucapkan kepada timbalan-timbalan Naib Canselor USM, ahli-ahli jawatankuasa pengurusan Universiti Sains Malaysia, ketua-ketua jabatan, ahli-ahli senat, pegawai-pegawai utama universiti, tuan-tuan, puan-puan dan seluruh warga kampus yang dihormati sekalian. Hari ini adalah perjumpaan, lebih juga kepada perbincangan. Dia bukan perutusan dan sebagainya. Dan saya mohon izin untuk menggunakan bahasa Inggeris selaku menghormati staf kita dan juga barangkali some students dari antarabangsa who will converse in English. Tujuan utama untuk saya adakan perjumpaan ini, the main reason why we have this particular gathering is whether we realize it atau tidak, we are in the middle of preparing our strategic plan for the next 3 years. When it comes to strategic plans, the management has to try to anticipate what's going to happen for the next 3 years. Okay, thank you. Terima kasih. And it will be presented to the board. And this work will be completed either in June or August. When it is approved by the board, then it is up to all of us to realize these strategic plans. And then again, it is extremely important that we do this right. That's the main intention. And so for today, what I will do is that I will share whatever that we've done up to this point with the hope that everyone will be part of this conversation. Because this is our institution. We are part of USM. And what USM will decide, we have to support. USM has her vision and mission. When we join USM, whether we realize these were the vision and mission or not, is secondary. We need to map to what USM decides to do. Now, I also realize that part of that strategic plan will be one major move, which is the initiative to review the academic promotion exercise for all academics. There are reasons for that, and I'll actually talk about the reasons why it had to be done. But as far as we are concerned, until today, nothing has been decided yet. And you probably would not find university management that opens this conversation, to have a frank conversation, to have feedback as well. And we've been receiving feedback. Although some of the feedback, I think, could use a bit more tactfulness, if you like. But anyways, so I have about 1 hour. And after that, we'll open for Q&A. I do hope that the questions that will be posed will be questions that, of concern to USM, and not so much personal issues, for example. And I'll try my best to also address this exercise about this academic promotion. And these slides were used during my presentation to the board, and will be used to present to the board tomorrow. We'll have a board of governance meeting tomorrow as well. So again, it is about strategic plan, but the bigger content of today's talk is about where we are now, because that is the main part that will decide where we're going, where we will be going in the next 3 years. So I'll share with you. Some of them I've actually shared through emails, to WhatsApp, to HODs. But I think it's also, it's also perhaps useful for me to also explain rather than using rather than the limited medium of emails as well. So, a bit philosophic in nature. In terms of true north of a university, you can look at a lot of books. Some of them will just say, universities are meant to store, generate, and distribute or disseminate knowledge. Now that is an extremely important statement in the sense that we have to store, we have to archive knowledge. Now we'll be talking about graduate employability, for example, and we see some of our programs have low graduate employability, low employability. And the question is, why do we keep offering these programs? Partly it's because of the storage of knowledge. We have to continue that. And so there's no talk about, for example, closing some of these programs, because we know that that's one function of a university. We have to actually maintain that knowledge, history, anthropology, and all those things. But the question would be, how do we make sure that people who pursue this will carry on carrying that knowledge, but at the same time, they can survive when they go out there in terms of graduate employability? So that's one question that I'll pose. Second is generate knowledge. How do we generate knowledge? Innovation. It's through research. We are a research university. In our mission, it says that we are an intensive transdisciplinary research university. There's no question about not doing research. Of course, there's question about how do you measure the strength of the research, the outcome of the research, right? And there's plenty of conversation happening there as well. And the third is disseminate knowledge, which is what we do in our lectures. But again, there's a question in terms of what do we actually teach our students? Do we teach them the best knowledge? Or do we teach them based on our limitations? And how have we actually rise above ourselves to appreciate that we are limited in knowledge, but we make sure that the students get better than us through other means, through collaboration, through invited lecturers, through practitioners. I specialize in photonics. I do research in photonics, but I do know my weaknesses as well. I cannot do intense programming and simulation using the latest software, finite element method. I realized that when I teach my undergraduates, and I told them that I don't do this, but you need to have this. And therefore, I make it a point to look for collaborators who can teach my students those skills. It's about them. And I'm not going to limit their knowledge based on my limitations. Same goes with historians who can speak English, for example. It will be extremely useful for historians to be able to speak both Malay and English. Now, if we are limited in our English, then we have to admit that, but we don't limit our students in that sense. We have to find ways to make sure that they can pick up on the language, for example. And the second is about social mobility platform. Most of us have benefited from education. We've changed our family fortune, and we have to continue doing that. So if we don't do this, we're not doing a good job as a university. This is why, again, we keep talking about graduate employability. An employed graduate doesn't mean that they don't carry values. Let's not go there and talk about, oh, if we are going towards career, then where are the values instilled in our students? Isn't the university's function is to instill values first and worry about graduate employability later? It is not a mutually exclusive discussion. A working engineer has values. A working social scientist have values as well. It's not as if we worry about graduate employability because our social mobility platform function doesn't mean that we don't instill values in them. And of course, we are in the business of adding value to stakeholders, and these are all our stakeholders. And of course, we expect that our students will be upstanding citizens first, and future jobs readiness. Upstanding citizens, useful citizens, citizens who are objective in judging the state of the country or the state of the university. In order to do this, as academics, as members of staff of the university, we have to be exemplary in that sense. We have to behave as such. We have to be upstanding individuals as well. So these are the things that perhaps of concern all this philosophy. So for the next 3 years, what the management has anticipated is that one, we have to continue our function to build a nation. And the situation is very difficult now. We have to, I think most people realize that Malaysia in a way have lost its way, have lost its competitiveness. When you read books or articles, people tend to quote Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia. It seems that Malaysia is invisible. Now, you can write in whatever media or whatever platform to blame whatever parties that you feel like blaming. But at the end of the day, it doesn't escape the fact that we are all Malaysians and we have to do our part. And it is also important to realize that we will shape the next generation. These are all things that should be in our system. I don't have to remind you all this. It's common sense. So we have RMK12, shared prosperity, we have Meranti, carbon neutrality, and we will have Age Nation by 2020. So all that will fall into our strategic plan. In terms of global commitments as well, in terms of digitized and connected world, and also in terms of future pandemic. And the way we plan to do this is basically to look at USM and to address things. We actually break things down into three. The first is we have to continue to respond to current demands and pressures, and also we have to also move as an institution. So there are things that we have to still address because they are fundamental. What are they? For example, OSHA, occupational safety and health. At this point of time, USM is 40% compliant. The ideal case is 75% compliant. Do we need to wait until one of our staff get affected by chemical exposure, dies of fire, whatnot, before we look into this? And this has been neglected for years. And OSHA compliant is expensive. You can go to any of the teaching labs in chemistry, in physics, in Taji Hayat, any of the labs in engineering, you will instantly feel depressed. In TI, you feel depressed because we've not actually improved our labs. We had money. I don't know where we spend the money. And now we don't have money, and yet we are so very hell-bent on trying to improve things. Because it is a national tragedy if we invest on an academic to do a PhD for 3 years vote. It is a national tragedy if we have the brightest of Malaysians coming to USM, and yet we can only teach them that much, although it's 40% penetration across of all of USM. I think campus kesihatan has about 1 gigabit per second or 2 gigabit per second only. I think kejuruteraan, engineering has about 1 gigabit per second or 2 gigabit per second. Here we are swimming with bandwidth. We have about 10 or 11 gigabit per second, and yet we have 40% Wi-Fi penetration, which means that we are underutilizing that the broadband that we get here, and we pay for that. The second is we have to invest on what we've built momentum on. Things like micro-credential, things like ODL, courses, some of the physical development that we've done. So that's the second one. And the third is, as a university, we also have to invest in the future. Whether or not these future things will pick up in the next 2 or 2 years, we don't know. But we have to at least have a familiarity with all this for the sake of our students as well. So this is why we are investing on virtual reality, augmented reality, and all those things. It is my wish that if we have 60% of our students being B40, before they leave USM, at least they know what's the experience of learning through VR. And we want to open that for children of our staff as well, these facilities. So they might end up in other universities, they might end up in a school somewhere, but as the members of staff, you get the privilege where your children can also see some of the most advanced things in Malaysia. So these are the things that we have to put in when we do strategic planning, fundamental, progressive, and advanced. Tuan Pengurusi, don't check masa saya. I don't want to be talking too long. And we've referred to all these past strategies. Some of you were involved in this, some of you were not involved. Some of you do not know even that these documents exist. Two things that I've actually read this when I first joined USM, and a lot of things do not make sense because you don't have the context. You don't know why some strategies are there. 2 years in the job, I've revisited all this and I understood in a way why there are certain strategies. But there are two things that I found as well. One, none of these strategies have mentioned about how much it will take in terms of finance to realize these strategies. Everyone can put strategies, oh, this is what we need to do, right? This is what we need to do, so on and so forth. But how much money it will cost? How much money it will cost to push OSHA compliance from 40% to 75%? How much money it will cost to go from 40% broadband to 60, 70%, for example. And the second is that a lot of this strategic plan measure the initiatives. So we have hundreds of initiatives in there. And the thought process there is that if you do this, then the outcome will come. Which is not necessarily the case. Another is that this strategic plan assumes that everyone will buy into this and everyone are 100% performers, which is not the case as well. No strategic plan will ever mention about how do you deal with people who don't perform. What kind of accountability that we're going to put in there? Because it's unpopular. Because it will create lots of anger, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go a bit quickly on this. These are, you can read this. I've already shared the slides. These are some of the things that we've accomplished in the past 2 years, despite the pandemic. We call it pandemic years. And there are some fundamental issues. There are also progressive and advanced investments as well. You can look at the list. And in terms of the financial challenges, how much savings we made, how much self-generated income that we've made. Alhamdulillah, USM has been extremely successful when it comes to RMK, Rancangan Malaysia ke-12, RP1 and RP2. And I think we have to give a big round of applause to the DVC of SID and the TMJ PPA and PPKT as well. And also the team from HUSM. No other universities have amassed 200 million plus in the two rolling plans, RP1 and RP2. Of course, the biggest beneficiary is the HUSM in Kubang Krian to upgrade Peralatan Usang and also for a new outpatient department, which I will share with you later, which will cost about 120 million for the convenience of everyone. Now, at some point, we will have to end up like a HUSM or Bertam. Okay. So this is the part where I'll go a bit deeper on our finances. There are two graphs here. One is the overall kewangan disatukan, and one is the money that we use for pengurusan. Two things that I like to highlight to everyone here. One is that the fact that in the past 2 years, our collection of fees as part of kita punya, in order for us to go to be more financially stable, our fees, if you look at 2021, it's about 160 million. That is the amount collected for that year. We invoice students 200 million. The remainder of the 40 million were collected this year. So to go from 147, 149 million, 143 to 200 million in 2 years during pandemic years is something that USM should be extremely proud about, and it required everyone's effort. And we are only beginning. There are still schools who have potential to grow. This is the part where I'm going to say, first, thank you to everyone. But second, don't expect these sort of things will end up as personal remuneration. This is what we're doing for the university, for the benefit of everyone. It comes from the fees from our international students, postgraduates. That's the 200 million. If I can use the analogy of paying taxes, we pay income tax, right? We pay income tax and we put the confidence in our government to say, here's the money, and go and spend it well. And so I pay, for example, I pay 60,000 a year from PCB and whatnot, from my hard work or my not hard work. What we intentionally do or not intentionally do is that we know that when we pay tax, then it will go somewhere else. It's the collective effort that will benefit people who probably don't, we don't know as well, but that's how things are. I don't go around, I don't say, here's 60,000 that I pay tax. It's a lot of money, but I don't see any of the tax going to my kids' school in Minden Heights. How come that is the case? I should be rewarded for the amount of money that I give to the government. That doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's the same thing with this as well. We appreciate everyone's effort. We appreciate every school's effort. We put some in the enterprise, but there's also the part where we have to give to the central so that we can actually spend this somewhere else, but it's a collective effort of USM. And the second is, I like you to refer to the emolument. If you look at emolument, we went from 764, 767, this is the row yang kat bawah, emolument. And 805, 807. USM only grow about 0.3% going from this year to next year in terms of emolument. The way we see it is that, one, we are preparing for any eventual surprises kalau ada potongan, if there are budget cuts. The second is that we want to be part of the country. The country is suffering. The country doesn't have much money. We want to be part of that institution that says, we understand that the country doesn't have money. So we're not going to expand. We're not going to ask them for more and more in terms of emolument. But something has to give. This is why we have to go on contract basis and whatnot. I'd like to share two things as well. Despite our financial challenges, every year, on average, 500 USM staff are promoted since 2018. 500. That works out on average. If we look at 20 working days per month, that is 2% promoted per day. Without fail. Despite the financial challenges. And HR has to process those two yang promoted. Yang apply is probably 10% per day, HR. That's the kind of work that HR is doing. I receive some people complaining that, okay, HR is taking too long, whatnot. But you also have to appreciate the fact that they have to process that almost every day. And when it comes to academics, you have external examiners, senators, the logistics is a nightmare as well. So perhaps we should, in a way, show appreciation to HR for doing this continuously. Second is, when I look at the statistics in terms of per jawatan, what HR has done in the past 3 years was, HR has been looking for more, and this mainly for the professional, PNP, and also for staff pelaksana, HR, in the past 3 years, dia banyak apply untuk jawatan laluan kerjaya, jawatan kenaikan pangkat, berbanding dengan jawatan-jawatan baru, supaya semua staf ada laluan kerjaya. Dan bila saya tengok statistik dari segi kebarangkalian untuk dapat 3 tahun yang kebelakangan ni, kebarangkalian untuk dapat pos untuk laluan kerjaya adalah lebih tinggi daripada kebarangkalian untuk dapat pos lantikan. Isu dia adalah some of the grade, kita ada 5 skim untuk akademik, ada 5 skim untuk PNP, ada 77 skim untuk pelaksana. Kalau JPA minta semua skim ada piramid dia, ada C29 sebanyak ni baru ada C32, C32 banyak ni baru ada boleh dapat C36, boleh kata semua 75 skim tu tak ada yang ada piramid macam tu, kecuali N dan mungkin ada 1-2 skim lagi. Kalau kita kat L apa? L law. Dia habis kat L52 saja. We don't have enough L52 to ask for L54. So the person who actually sit in L52, dia habis kat situ nanti. Do you understand or not? These are the things that is happening behind closed doors. Kita tak tahu. So I'm telling you now. So we'll continue on that. And satu lagi ialah, bila kita minta laluan kerjaya, kita akan buat /N52/B52/S52/W52, so that apa yang JPA ada dia akan bagi untuk kebajikan staf. This is well-being. This is to make sure that everyone ada chance untuk naik. This is not applicable to academics. Academics doesn't have this kind of pyramid. So I need academics to understand that you are still privileged in terms of promotion. The only requirement that we ask from all of you, the academics, is that you have to be able to tell the difference between promotion, which actually promote excellence, and the stuff that you do on a daily basis that you get paid for. The university doesn't actually go around and say, you know what, you did not contribute much on MIRA. So for next year, you're not going to get any RU funding because you didn't contribute much. If it's about tit for tat, kita tak buat benda itu. We take the collective effort, but if you need the funding, we don't judge. Kita tak berkira. That's my point. So enough of this. I want to be rewarded for every single thing that I do. If I carry responsibilities for my school, how am I going to be rewarded for that? Because the university can turn around and say, well, if that is the case, then we will be going for tit for tat as well. And that doesn't make for a good institution. There is a fardu ain and there is a fardu kifayah. There's something that you do for yourself, there's something that you do for the institution. If you want to carry yourself with certain level of individualism, then do not threaten the university. If you need to leave, leave. We do not need people who are selfish in this university. We don't need that at all. All right, so this is our condition at this point of time in terms of finance. And why do we keep talking about finance? It's because we want to continue on this special budget. Making more money doesn't make the VC wealthier. It's not as if you're going to offer a bonus to all the top management. It's for the university, and we need as much money as possible. So work hard, and that it means that goes to everyone, not just the academics. The administrators, the one involved in registration, taking care of students, staff pelaksana, make sure you do your job well. Labs have to be clean, labs kena safe. Kalau ada sisa binaan tu, tengok. Universiti kena bersih. Jangan biarkan. Take responsibility. At the same time, university is working to reward everyone as well. Okay, so that is where our finance is. I think we are on a momentum. I think we need to continue doing this. Now, if you look at this picture as well, kita collect 160 million last year, 2021. Only 108 can be used untuk pengurusan, mengurus, to top up for whatever that the government doesn't give us. So if you were to collect 121 so far, this year 121 million, we can only use 82 million untuk roll the money. Now, based on that particular equation, in order for us to be just comfortable, to make sure that we can continue investing on our facility dan sebagainya, we need to make 300 to 250 million a year in terms of fees. By doing that, we can send our PNP for training, we can actually take more care of kita punya pelaksana, we can give more for milk program, for nutrition program, give more seed funding for startup, pitch for students, internship for students, all sorts of things. 300 to 250 million, that is our target. We cannot be distracted in our aim, and that is why, again, our quality of a program, the willingness of academics to put in the effort to do this, to help the university, is extremely important. Okay, how much time? How long have I been talking? Saya cakap berapa dah? Setengah jam. Okay, so ini untuk yang nak ambil CGR. We are the first university to start this. In fact, kita aim before Raya dapat. But again, think about it. As I mentioned in my email, ini dicukai. And satu lagi benda is that this year alone, if everyone, 1,000 orang apply for CGR, Universiti Sains Malaysia has to find 36 million to pay everyone. Tak masuk bonus yang hari raya yang kita akan juga masuk dalam account, which will cost about 5 or 6 million. And there will probably be more surprises as we approach the general election. And then next year is lesser, about 4-point-something million. In 2026, then is about 4 million commitment every year. Talking about commitment, again, why do we need finances as well? Personally, I want to change, katalah contohnya allowance computer. Now we give the academics 1,500 ringgit if you bring your own device. But these days, everyone perlukan laptop ni, not just academics. And that allowance is not extended to PNP ataupun pelaksana. But if we have money, we can do this. We can say every year we put aside 2.5 million, 20% goes to academics, 1,500 for every device you bring, for one device that you bring, and it will every 4 years punya kitaran. Then we can actually extend that to PNP, 2,000 for all PNP, and 2,500 for kita punya pelaksana. Whatever they want to do with the laptop, nak beli untuk dia ke untuk anak dan sebagainya, it's up to them, but that requires money. But everyone needs those devices now. It's no longer the region of just academics nowadays. So again, please have a look and think. I understand, we always need money, and some plans to withdraw the money to letak dekat higher yield accounts or investment. But with this kind of tax, because they are taxable, you have to calculate your cost benefit analysis lah, Rasanya macam tak baloi je with the returns that you get from typical accounts. Alright, satu benda I like to say, two things is, I understand that freezing recruitment is not a popular decision, but as I mentioned just now, we need to weather from all this sekatan. So we've actually has committed to bring in 345 academics on contract, above, on top of the 237 that is already in the picture, on top of the 75 in the COE, and on top of the 160 PNP who are on contract. And that requires a cost, it will cost us 36 million this year. And we only received 30 million from the government for contract staff. So another 6 million we have to find. But this is to buffer the issue of shortage of academics. So despite the financial challenges, we do this. But what we wanted from all the schools is that, given this, knowing that it's difficult to do this because of the financial implication, when given this opportunity, you take that seriously. Bring only the best, or people who are willing to sacrifice for USM. Put that in the iklan or in the interview, so that it's worth it. If we were to continue with the 237 staff who are already on the contract, on the payroll, plus 75, plus 160, plus if we were to appoint 245, all of them are filled, next year we have 582 academics on contract, 75 in COE, 160 non-academics, ataupun PNP. It will cost USM 46 million. Now if USM gets contract punya funding of 30 million, then we have to find 16 million. But if USM dapat 20 million, we have 26 million to find. On top of the 20-odd million that we give every year on kenaikan pangkat automatic for 5%, kenaikan gaji automatic for 5%, on top of the 6.7 million for promotion, and on top of the bonuses and all those things. My point is this. We have a financial challenge. We are addressing that. We are doing some unpopular decisions. At the same time, we are also trying our best to buffer the impact. But there is a cost attached to it. And all we are asking from everyone is that, given the privilege, use it well. We can't afford to screw this up. Itu saja. Okay? In terms of teaching and learning, this year we will actually make it compulsory for students to do the evaluation, and we'll do this evaluation, we'll check. We will not allow deans, or especially decan, to give someone an APC when their teaching punya feedback is anything less than 75%. When USM put lots of emphasis on publication, people say, you're neglecting teaching. We funded teaching, MOOC, micro-credential, whatever. Now it's about accountability as well. Just because you teach doesn't mean you teach well. Now I'm sure people will then start questioning, is it the right rubric to use? Can we trust our students? There will always be questions. But let's start with the accountability first. Okay? And at this point of time, we have 122 warga negara and 53 bukan warga negara in P1 and P2. I need all the schools to be sensible and put some resources to make sure they come up from this P1 and P2. And this is something that we really need to work on. It's uncomfortable, it's difficult, but we are doing it for the students. To you, to I. What does that mean? That means that they have 2 years in the university, and 2 years, third year and fourth year, they go to industry. And they have to go and you have to learn online, ODL. It's like a PJJ program. And if you have to teach on the weekend, then do so. Why? Because these companies, I'll take Opstar for example. Opstar will be a half unicorn. Based on evaluation of the company, it is about $500,000 ringgit worth. Set up by our alumni. It's a missed opportunity. Opstar is planning to offer third and fourth year students that have the necessary expertise 1,500 ringgit per month. They have to come and work for Opstar and then at the same time finish their degree. Now that will require academics from EE and CDEC to plan their teaching so that these students can belajar malam ke or weekend and plan for labs that they can probably come once every Friday with negotiation with Opstar. But understand this, these students will get 1,500 ringgit. They can start paying off their PTPN and they have a job waiting for them. And this is 50 students they're asking, 50. Now if this can be repeated by Boston Scientific, AT&S, and whatever else, we have students who will graduate, not only the job will be waiting for them, they could have paid off their PTPN, they are debt-free. But it requires everyone to move to micro-credential, or ODL, or whatever. It's uncomfortable, it's more work, but that is the point we're here. Because we are a social mobility platform. We're doing it for our students. And we have to encourage more students to grab these opportunities. I shared with everyone the GE punya sort of analysis, right? When I said English level doesn't make a big impact in terms of their probability of getting a job. But if they are from a B40 family, chances are they will be underemployed. And so we want to change that. We don't want to be part of that statistic. We don't want to be part of that statistic. We want our B40 to not be underemployed and in fact getting the best of salaries. This is how we do it. Kita lah kena sacrifice. Okay, give me another 10 minutes. We're preparing for students doing politics in campus. This under Prof. Azlinda. There will be a draft guideline. And again, we are higher in terms of graduate employability compared to the national statistics, although we're not the highest rank, obviously. Cumanya, when you look at the numbers carefully, Okay, the point of this slide is basically to look at other courses yang have low GE and high underemployed. Other courses yang high GE but still underemployed. As academics or as member of that school, you need to sit down and look at this carefully. Because that is the outcome of people coming to Universiti Sains Malaysia. What kind of value that we actually add to them. So contoh, how do we actually read this is, if you look at kejuruteraan sumber mineral, 30 orang bekerja. Kejuruteraan sumber mineral has always have a GE of higher than 90%. Baguslah, maknanya siapa yang graduate, 90% or 95% will get a job. But from that 90% or 95% that get a job, 23% are underemployed. Bermaksud, daripada 100 orang, about 23-24 orang akan dibayar gaji bukan yang untuk budak yang ada degree, not for the people who actually earn a degree. So that's not good enough. They spend money, they spend time here. They should be 100% employed, 0% underemployed. That's the kind of target that we have to set. 90.5% overall employability is misleading, if you like. It looks good in reports elsewhere, but not in USM. And 1 in every 4 overall in USM earns about 1,500 and below the minimum wage punya level. And again, I understand this number where we are actually contributing very small numbers to Penang punya talent pool when we have the requirement for tens of thousands. Anyways, going quickly in terms of research, I've shared this. What I find very interesting and what I cannot answer is basically, despite us giving we give schools to set targets, and school actually targeted lower, and yet for 2021, at the end of the year, we get higher than 2020. So in a way, this trust experiment worked. We can trust the school to set targets, and the school will contribute to USM's overall performance. And I hope for this year you continue on this, which is a good thing. We didn't expect that 2021 we exceed 4,000 publication. No, when we calculated, we thought it will happen in 2023 or 2024. But this proved that we can do it. We have all the potential in the world to grow. And this is with about still 400 people who didn't publish anything for the past 3 years. Still about 400 senior academics who have no grants for the past 2 years, and some refuse to apply for grants. I shared this in the slides as well, in terms of Myra. If auditors do not cut any of the points, it will be the first time in so many years, since 2016, that we get 80 plus. Again, without much of a pushing pun sebenarnya. I don't think we began pushing, I didn't do a Prof. Gauss Jasmine kind of a thing where I'm going to set this, you either do it or you die. Tak ada pun, And finally, in terms of our development, so Gerbang in engineering worth 47 million, they've began work, the soil investigation and whatnot. Solar engineering will generate about 4 megawatt, and that will save engineering about 500,000 a year in terms of electricity bills. Will also increase. So we have to chop down a few trees. But if you look at in terms of the carbon absorption of trees against the electricity generated by solar, the solar that we install here is worth about 780 trees. So they are collateral as well. And for that, I have to apologize. This is very exciting. This is about 120 million given to HSM to build an outpatient. So that is where the location is. We have to part ways with that to Padang because we have to make parking bertingkat. And I'm supposed to get the principal approval of the board in order for us to call for an RFP, request for proposal, for parking operator to operate. So far, all this development cost RM0 from USM. The solar, the gerbangs, the field, zero. And yet we get benefit from that. Solar in Induk, you get your parking berbumbung, and we should be able to save about 3 million ringgit per year, which that 3 million can be used for special budget, insyaAllah. Gerbang is 47 million. We don't get much. Kita akan dapat at least sewa from one rumah kedai, satu rumah kedai kan, Pak Azazi. Dan petrol station punya sewa will not make us any richer, but at the same time we bring development to Nibong Tebal. We will actually attract more, hopefully more international students and USM +1. When we calculate what engineering will get, if we get 15 new international undergraduate and 15 new USM +1 every year, by the end of the 4th year we get about 40 million ringgit in terms of fees. That's not bad. So ni dekat kebangkrian, it will probably take about 2 or 3 years to finish, and more services, more opportunities for our doctors to also do some private practice, so they can earn money as well. We will develop, so TRU land is Taman Rekreasi USM yang sekarang ni memang kita pakai pun. We have about 183 acres. But we've asked Rahim & Co to do a study, and apparently just about 22.7 acres that can be developed. We will again call for RFP, and this is something, these are the need statement. We want to put there a hotel, or it's not a full-fledged hotel, but if you have visitors coming to your school, they can stay there. For the first time, we are considering to include quarters untuk staff as part of TRU land. So these are untuk staf keselamatan, staf PPKT while on standby, staf pusat sejahtera. You can stay there for 3 years on rotational basis. In that 3 years, you pay very low. Staf JPPA yang keraian dan sebagainya. In that 3 years, you can save money so that you can actually use that money to buy your own house, and then we can rotate. International school can bring lots of money, and we also have a growing number of international students. And we also have a growing number of academics and also PNP who are sending their kids to international school. So having one right where you work is actually will probably be very useful. USM Education Hub is for advanced kindergarten, so we invite School of Education, early childhood education to also practice there. Untuk IPPT, RFP, again, we will be calling for RFP soon. We have issues with the land usage. The same goes with HUSM. There are issues with land. In terms of HUSM ataupun kebangkrian, this land issue has been around for 40 years. But I can say with the excellent work from our PUU, this year that 40 years issue will be solved, insyaAllah, and we can actually open about 100 acres of land for RFP, for development in the health campus. So Bertam will be looking for surau under wakaf, hostel slash living, some kind of hotel slash people who would have to be there for rehabilitation. So we have our Cyberdyne exoskeleton services. We want to make it a point where our people there, especially the physiotherapists, can also get additional income from private practice. So having a hostel there where people who have to come there, it's 100% disabled, accessible, would be useful as well, a sports arena and perhaps some commercial. So again, trying to make it a bit more vibrant. Whatever we get from this, we want to fund more on health services as well. And finally, in science at USM Bukit Jambu, we want to revive that abandoned residential desa siswa. We have one abandoned for like years. We want to revive that project. And there's a proposal to build a new desa siswa next to Tasik USM. This is very new. We're not sure whether this is feasible or whether we want to build something that is next to a horrible Tasik. And we need to fix that Tasik, by the way, or else we could become a center for dengue. And finally, this is a USM, finally, soon, USM car plate number. So you plan on changing your car or your motorbike and you want to have USM, it will be here soon. All that with single number, the starting bid will be 90,000 ringgit. So USM +1, USM 2, USM 8, and then it will go 60,000, 15,000, all the way to I think 1,000 kot. So bolehlah kalau rasa nak tukar kereta raya esok, bolehlah reserve nombor. Tapi jangan pakai duit CJR beli kereta baru, kalau boleh lah. Bayarlah hutang dulu. Okay, and so going back to strategic plan, as I said just now, we made some progress, but still have lots of fundamental issues to address. And what we need from you is, have a look at this, but the key is this. The key is these key result areas. Dia tak perlu banyak, it doesn't have to be many, but it has to be tangible, so that next year, in the next 3 years, the management at that point, or the VC at that point, or the board at that point will have a look at this and say, yes, in the past 3 years, we managed to attain this. Zero deficit in operational expenditure. That's the key result area for financial strength. Diversified sources for non-emolument, meaning to say, if we can raise 300 million, so if we get additional from government, let's say 100 million, we want to match that from other sources as well. Elevating research, citation of more than 160,000 in the next 3 years. So that requires more intense research. So what do we need to do to realize that? If you want to elevate research and to have high citation, obviously we have to fund research. So we have to find the money now to complement our research university funding, which, by the way, in 2022, kena cut because they have a different approach. And instead of getting 25 million, we might get 20 or 19 million. Our 6 million will be distributed to the UMs, UTM, UKMs, and whatnot. So I think if you have a sense of pride about this institution, this logo, you feel absolutely angry about this. And you want to find in yourself to work so that we don't suffer any more cuts, regardless whether you will be rewarded individually or tidak. That's how it works. And so before I end this, I'd like to, and of course, if we are right with this KRA, which I don't think these are complete, and some of them would require some fine-tuning. I see there that healthy and happy citizens rating 90% is under my responsibility. So I didn't set this, I didn't set this, or I just leave it to my management to look at this. I don't think it will happen. There's 90% happy, not under me, I could. But yeah, healthy probably. And the strategies that we draw from all these KRAs will also have to come with a cost. And at this point of time, it will cost us at least 40 million for the next 3 years, on top of whatever expenditure I showed you. So be part of this. If you think that these are not the right KRAs, and based on whatever I've mentioned just now with regards to all the progress that we've made, please feed that to IPSC, Prof. Asrul. That's the whole point of today's presentation. Is that where we're going based on where we are now? Are those the things that matter for USM in the next 3 years? Are those that we will measure? And those are, are we going, we have to draw the strategies based on all those. Role in the national agenda, 100% national agenda supported. So at this point, I'd like to say something about the review of the academic promotion exercise. One, it did not come from a vacuum. The top management has received numerous requests to look at how we measure academic performance from the board, from people who want to see more transparency, from people who want to see both qualitative and quantitative measurements, from those people who have left USM, who left a positive legacy, and then ask us, how come USM is at where it is now? How come our legacy has not been continued? What is happening to USM? from those people who has to fight in Myra every year for the benefit of everyone. Kita dapat duit Myra 20 million, we never thank anyone who actually compile the marks and do all the audits. And then again, all these people, they don't ask, did you contribute or not? Once we get it, everyone will benefit from it. But you also have to understand the pain that they have to suffer every year when the auditors kept asking, is this the best that USM can do? How is it that USM has faltered so far? Kita tak rasa, we don't feel that pain because we don't hear that. We are at the convenience of our office, waiting for the result. Once the result dapat, we ask for the funding. It's painful to be last. People will slap us around. People change the requirement and then you get off with 19 million, not 25 million. Others will get 27. We need every single million, but we are weak. And then we want to say that we want to have a USM style. We are different. We want to go and change the lives of the top billion. If we are strong in this and we make that kind of announcement, people will not say that we are sour grapes because we say, you know what, we are strong. We are a strong institution. We've proven that, and now we are going to take a different chart because we disagree in this. But for an institution that is lowest to say that, people will say, look, of course, you can't compete here. And then did we actually prove that we managed to do our mission of vision of elevating the bottom billion and whatnot? Tu pun tak dapat. So where are we as an institution? So these are all the things that we gather, and we said, okay, you know what, we're going to listen. As I said, this has not been decided, but we've made provisions for 30%. If you think you are doing impactful work that will benefit the community, the society, the nation, the world, that's the 30%. Convince us. Not just convince us, convince your external examiner. We've made changes to the process as well. If you don't trust USM, 20% of your assessment will come from external, just 10% from dekan. Kalau dekan ada ulterior motive, which I find it somewhat sad that people have to say that. Now others will judge whether you are impactful or not. The 70%, if you benchmark what we did now, the current form, with all the other RUs, it's nowhere near the other RUs. Nowhere near. But we say, you know what, it's okay because we are changing, plus we want the 30% as well. Now, if you are passionate about teaching, for example, that's a teaching track. Prove it. Not just teaching. It's just not just the beban, it's about excellence. Have you been an excellent academic in teaching? Prove it. That's a teaching track. That's a clinical track. That's a sastra track. That's a seni track. There's a leadership track. And in doing this, we are actually giving all to you to decide, to check, to feedback. But when you feedback, think about, one, where this university is going. Do you want to continue to suffer cuts or whatnot? I'm not asking that we compete with UM or UTM. It's not a race. It's just that as long as we make it, we don't have any cuts, that's fine. Right? And then look at the fact that we have about 1,900 academics. Not just you. The world doesn't revolve around you. So, tak ada universiti lain, I don't think any university, whether it's RU ke, M-Tun ke, M-Fan ke, M-Chun ke, tahu kan? M-Tun technical, M-Chun is comprehensive. Apa lagi? Kita M-Ran, Research University, M-Ran, M-Tun, M-Chun, tak apa lagi dah. M-Fan. M-Fan, they just have fun kat sana. M-Fan is, apa F, I can't remember lah. Ada M-Fan. UMS is M-Fan kot, if I'm not mistaken. Focus. F is for focus. M-Fan. And at the same time, kita still tak decide pun. None of those has been decided. And at the same time, we will continue the promotion exercise using the existing one this year. I don't think other universities have bent over backwards that much to be as inclusive as possible. And kalau you still think that it is not fair of USM, or this is punishing people, this is, keep changing the goalposts, it is. You see all the challenges that we have to change. We have to respond to those. But if you still think that this is, this is not the university that you would want to be in because for whatever reason, despite us trying very hard to include everyone in this conversation, then I personally, as long as I'm VC, I'm not willing to make any more, I cannot ban anymore. Not without affecting USM's performance. We've built a momentum here now. And if I were to remind everyone, our vision and mission is very forward-looking, very noble, and it requires USM to be a strong institution. Beggars can't be choosers, beggars can't help people. You have to be strong to help others. It also needs strong people to carry it, whether it's academics, PNP, or Pelaksana. Strong, professional, disciplined, committed individuals. If this is not something that you are prepared to do, then don't stay here. With that, I'd like to conclude this talk, and I will open for Q&A. Thank you so much. Tak dengar. Okay, questions. Anyone? You can go to the mic. I think Faris dan Encik Mat akan ambil question from Facebook and also YouTube. Sebelum tu, while waiting for people, again, please ask. You can ask any questions. I might sound angry ke apa, it's not angry, it's semangat. Semangat tu macam tu, dia lain. Walaupun kat sini sejuk ni sebenarnya. I don't know why they make it so cool kat sini, supaya jangan cakap lama-lama. But before I forget as well, so again, untuk staff-staff pelaksana, I think the union has been very, very strong in trying to support everyone's well-being. Saya nak pesan that we base a lot of kita punya policies on trust. We trust school to set targets. We trust your feedback when it comes to academic review. We trust kita punya staff pelaksana when it comes to bagi allowance kasut, keselamatan dan sebagainya. Kita trust. Saya tak nak treat staff macam budak-budak. Kita tak nak nanti check receipt dan sebagainya. Cuma all we need from you is that you have to repay the trust by be sensible lah. Maksudnya apa? Kalau kata dapat peruntukan untuk kasut, belilah. Ataupun kalau ada safety shoes, staff yang perlu pakai safety shoes masa kerja, pakailah. Jangan pakai slipper kat makmal. Kan? Itu aja. Because it is, we have to feel proud about kita punya tempat kerja. You have to be proud about kita punya institution, and we are actually carrying the institution punya nama. And it's not a difficult thing. So pakailah. Jangan tak pakai. Kalau pergi site, pakai PPE itu. Tunjuk, proud. Buat macam kita punya team fogging. Team fogging team fogging kita ni. Again, they seldom get, we don't thank them personally lah. But they are there every day fogging to make sure that we don't get dengue. They've been going around in the Kembara with the fogging machine dekat belakang. So you enter the Kembara, belum masuk pun dia dah rasa bau the diesel that they use. And they've been doing that for years. And we've been changing cars, everyone's cars semua, including the top management, bawa on record dan sebagainya. And the moment kita bagi dia an overall that suits dia punya working condition, they've been wearing that ever since. Okay, so any questions?
Boleh. Tuan-tuan dan perempuan boleh menggunakan mikrofon yang telah disediakan di kiri dan kanan tuan-tuan dan perempuan. Mungkin bertanya sebarang soalan. Seperti Datuk mention, any questions?
Any questions? Any comments?
Comments, yes.
Again, this KRA is extremely important. Whether we agree on this or not. Some I agree, some I think we have to refine them. We are aiming for 80% connectivity in the next 3 years for all the campus. That's a lot of money to spend. Yes, Prof.
Mungkin Datuk ada daripada, saya tengok daripada USM ni.
Prof,
Ya, selamat pagi dan terima kasih kepada
Prof mungkin boleh dekat sedikit dengan mikrofon.
ya.
apapun saya pegang. Ya, Prof, Datuk Visi, ya, terima kasih atas your talk this morning. Jadi mendengar dan juga melihat pembentangan, saya rasa yang penting sekali, amat penting sekali adalah revenue, hasil yang kita dapat perolehi as an education institution. Yang penting adalah enrollment. So kebelakangan ini kita at least dekat School of Sciences kita dapat ramai pelajar asing, khasnya dari negeri China, dan juga ada ramai yang kita tolak, tak terima. Kalau kita hendak meningkatkan revenue ataupun hasil pendapatan, maka kita boleh tingkatkan jumlah bilangan pelajar dari luar negeri. I think for PhD student, 1 year we can get about 10,000, about $1,000 plus for a candidate per semester. Tapi di sini dilemanya ialah ramai di kalangan staff, academic staff, telah ada ramai pelajar untuk diselia, sum up to more than 10 and so on. Jadi kalau kita dapat meningkatkan bilangan pelajar PhD, that means if I have 10,000, I have 10 students, I can bring in 50,000 to the university. Tapi ini juga akan mempengaruhi other aspect, for example, research and publication. If I have too many students, so I think there is this dilemma as well. And so any guideline for staff for let's say a maximum. Now we have minimum for, let's say for example, for a professor at least need to supervise 4 PhD students. Kalau kita naikkan to 10 students, jadi any guideline for maximum,
Thank you,
for
Prof.
example.
Thank you so much. The short answer is no. We are not planning to do any guidelines because I think it's very unique to schools. Although I've been repeating this so many times, for those schools yang dah terlalu ramai, you've done your part for the university and we thank you. Don't add some more. You don't find a VC that says don't add some more. Kan? Yes, of course we want the finance, but other than postgraduate supervision, we also have offshore programs, all these executive diplomas that we want to do and all those things as well, which by the way has to rely on technology as well. Because once you put your effort in doing that micro-credential and MOOC, it will stay there and all you have to do is fine-tune, I think, at least. That's my thought. Having, to me at least personally, if you have more than 7, it's already a lot. Never mind 10 or 12, you know, for me at least. During the heydays in where we have high impact research grant, there were about 20 postgraduates, but I don't supervise all of them, I co-supervise, and I had postdocs as well. So we appreciate those who have actually been supervising, but you know, there is a limit to that. But there are also some schools with academics that are averaging about 2 or 3. So it is these schools that have to actually improve in terms of supervision, because you can take on a bit more. When we put emphasis So when we say disseminate knowledge, again, it's not just on lecture undergraduates. I think you know this as well. The act of supervising masters and PhD is about distributing knowledge as well. And the whole idea, especially in terms of nation building, if you went for your PhD, and before you went for a PhD, the level of knowledge of the nation is that much. Let's say I take my example as a guy from photonics. The whole people in photonics in Malaysia had that much knowledge. When I go to do my PhD, when I come back, I've actually increased that by this much. What do you do with that? This you have to actually start sharing with others through your lectures, through your supervision, so that when they go off, it will be this much, and so on and so forth. So there is something that has to be said about postgraduate supervision and securing the grants to get those postgraduates in. It is our job to make sure that people continue what we've toiled over for 4 or 5 years, right? So that's one thing. But there's also a limit to it. At the same time, when we talk about publication, not just journals, chapters, book chapters, and whatnot, we don't expect you to write every single one of them. As part of this postgraduate exposure and experience, they have to be taught to read, to write as well. The emphasis on Q1, Q2 is not just about showing that you have high quality publication, but for the sake of students, if you submit to Q1, Q2, the proper ones, even if the paper gets rejected, the reasons for rejection are crucial for you to get a third-party opinion in terms of whether you are doing the right research or where are the gaps that will prepare these students when they go to Viva besok. It's not just about you. It's about exposing your students to the right kind of training as well. So anyways, there's no guideline. You take on as many as you can within reason so as not to trade off the quality, but I can only see positive when it comes to supervision if you get the right students, the good students, because they will help you in the publication, they will help you to do good research, they will help you to elevate the level of knowledge, and they will make for good supervisors when they return to wherever they came from. Hence, supervision is there in the promotion criteria. You want to get the best students, you have to work in the best fields, in the best challenges. And you have to offer them the space to pursue this. That's where the grants come in. The good ones will not come unless you pay them a ratio of maybe 3,000 ringgit plus an exciting research area as well. It's all a reflection of who you are as a researcher and as an academic. Sorry, it's a very long answer to a very short question. We're not keen on doing the guidelines, but again, let me repeat, especially for the decan, if you have academics who are struggling because there are so many supervision, let them finish that off, don't ask them to commit some more. Be sensible about it, okay? Yes, I know that brings money, but there is also this demarcation line, and I think there are also others who can actually come to the fore to also contribute.
Okay, Dato'.
We need co-supervision as well. Train the young ones, so expose them to supervision and all those. That's where it is also important when we promote people to associate professor and professors. These are the people's people. These are people who actually mentor and give positive advice. Now, don't ask me what happened 5 years ago when people get professorship due to arbitrary reason according to you. I'm not interested to find out what happened to this person. It shows. Kalau orang tu memang tak layak jadi profesor and dia dapat jadi profesor, itu rezeki dia, but I don't think they can go far. That's enough. It's not something that we should be doing. It taints our soul. What we want to do is moving forward, whether we can actually get proper talents and proper people who are deserving to be promoted, and those people will be a beacon for others to follow, the proper ones. Okay, ada soalan?
Ya, Dato', ada soalan, kita terima.
Dia baca soalan pun macam style MC, ada soalan diterima. Okay.
Ya, Dato', yang ni soalan dia.
Tu dia.
May I seek your comments on the current criteria for the conversion of contract to permanent for academic staff, and how is it going so far?
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, you know, when we introduced this 7 years contract, I know it will impact a lot of people, and some of them I had the privilege of playing football with and interacting with them. These are good people. We had to introduce this because of our financial situation, one. We had to do this because we really need to make sure that the people we absorb will not be problematic. We've done enough mistakes when it comes to bringing people into USM. And I kept telling people in terms of RLKA, for example, right? This is when we don't have any accountability. We just simply take people. I think at least, berapa PU sekarang? Ada 100 orang ke yang kena bayar? PU? Dr. Khairul? Ada 100 ke? Penalized. RLKA. 100 penalized, coming back without a PhD, or taking 7, 8, 9 years and still tak habis PhD. They are about to start their life, and we slap them with a penalty of 370,000, 450,000, and we wash our hands. So we think that in that 7 years, if you really push for it, you will attain an associate professorship punya level, provided that the school is supportive as well. Provided the school and the senior academics in the school are supportive. And they need to be supportive, because sometimes I hear this being brought up by the senior members of the academics, but sometimes it's just paying lip service. You show that you are concerned, but you're not putting the effort to make the lives of these people a bit easier. You don't want to take on any admin jobs. You don't want to take, you're not interested to do lots of things. How is that helping? So 7 years is enough to be an associate professorship. The new criteria, which again is not being approved, I don't know when to start, is also meant to show this is what you need to do. It's no longer up to imagination or up to your interpretation. We will add the glossary as well, so you know precisely this is what we need you to do. And you're not naive in that sense. Yes, you are passionate about teaching, but you shouldn't put all your effort and energy into teaching, right? You don't put all your eggs in one basket. Everyone knows that. You have to be moderate in that sense. So yes, 7 years, we're still maintaining that, but we've changed a number of things. One, instead of giving 1 year contract, we give 2 years, and soon we push to 3 years terus. So you have time to manage, you can secure all the grants and whatnot. We still maintain RU grants meant for senior lecturers and associate professors only, to remove the competition. We have 10,000 training when it comes to teaching and research. We began looking at commissioning work and also special research matching with RCMOs for certain projects as well. So it will continue, unfortunately. Now, what I found quite interesting as well in our engagement with top officials from central, from government, when we mentioned this policy, they are asking, why did you stick with 7? You should extend it to 15 instead. Again, why? Because at this point of time, the government has to spend about 28 billion ringgit a year on pension. It's a very unsustainable model. So chances are, if this is a big if, there might be where the government is also heading in terms of, you can be a public servant, but you're on contract. But they will extend some of the privilege of people yang tetap, macam loan rumah, loan kereta dan sebagainya. Itulah. So we will have to continue, but also understand this. Last year, those who are Those who dapat promoted as AP, some of them do not even have to be interviewed. So that's how quick we want to get it done. And for the international staff, they don't have to wait for their contract to expire before they jump into the next promotion. If you are promoted, we cut that old contract, we give you a new contract with promotion as well. So we're trying to meet halfway in that sense. Okay, thank you for the question.
Thank you, Datuk. Mungkin soalan penerangan Datuk tadi dapat menjawab soalan daripada Hasrul Zakaria berkenaan promotion juga. Dan Datuk, saya ada satu soalan daripada Syahidah Akmal. Salam Datuk VC. In your email, you said USAP is the most improved RU in the span of 2 years. Inadvertently, this also shows work from home does not impact the productivity of academic staff. Is work from home here to stay?
Yes, yes. The answer is yes. We introduced work from home before the pandemic. Okay, I want to say, why do we do that, right? It is a philosophy based on trust as well. When I mentioned this, at the initial idea of work from home, of course people will say, what happens if people abuse this? Yes, there will be 5% who will abuse this, but 95% will appreciate this. Why? Because when you talk about happiness index and whatnot, that's one of those things that you can use. You don't have to be stuck in traffic, and it is not just a privilege of academics. PNP and pelaksana ada anak juga. And if they can do it lah. We are concerned with those who will not abuse that, and at the same time still deliver their job. So work from home is here to stay. But syarat dia adalah, requirement is that it has to be mutually agreed with Ketua PTJ. And Ketua PTJ has to be sensible. It's not about the number of people who are at work, it's about the work that needs to be done. And if it's done lah. It's not about what people wear to work, it's about what they do. You have to trust your staff as well, until proven that they are abusive of the privilege, if you like. Don't judge dulu yang dia akan abuse. Let them be. Until such point where orang ni asyik, abuse saja, barulah take tindakan. So the answer is yes, we will continue work from home. Talk to your head department. There are requirements that you have to fulfill, and fill up the SKKF. It's not a big deal. We want to know where you are. Itu saja. For everything, for every empowerment, for every privilege, they must come with some kind of accountability. Filling SKKF takes just what? Half a minute. Itu saja. Itu pun orang, marah, kan? Macam-macam. The bigger thing is this work from home punya privilege. So that staff USM, and I did tell everyone, you can wear casually every day unless you have some meetings to attend. If you attend a meeting with the VC himself, he doesn't care. You pakai apa pun. But if you have to meet people from JPA ke apa dan sebagainya, then of course dress accordingly. It's about sensibility and trust. So we will continue doing that. So I received report from union kata, Nerve Center says 75% datang kerja. Tapi ada ketua jabatan suruh datang all 100%. Don't do that. We are fighting COVID still. We have people who are high risk. Janganlah. Unless 1-2 hari nak buat gotong royong, buang sampah sebab denggi, contohnya. Sensible. Until proven guilty. Okay, so yeah. Continue on smart casual or casual everyday, and selagi boleh, if possible, don't have meetings on Fridays for those yang dekat yang bekerja hari Fridays lah. Untuk kampus kesihatan ikutlah hari Khamis ke hari Ahad ke. When I say don't have meetings on Fridays, the philosophy behind that is that you have a break from all these meetings so that you can actually replenish yourself. Improve yourself, spend time reading ke, or see people, see your students, have more engagement, see your problematic staff, go and support your staff who are depressed, who recently lost a family member ke. Benda macam tu lah. Okay, next question.
Okay Datuk, daripada Rizman Suzaidi, Ada idea untuk kita bermula dengan 1% dan mencapai 30% sesi PNP dalam metamesta?
Apa? Apa soalan tu ni?
Itulah, saya dah macam tengok boy monster tu dah.
Tinggi
Ada
bahasa
idea, okey, soalannya, ada idea untuk kita bermula dengan 1% dan mencapai 30% sesi PNP dalam metamesta?
Oh, metaverse. Okay. So, metaverse is the one of the in thing at this point of time. I just finished one book on metaverse, and I have to admit I don't understand half of it. But I have to read this. You know, again, kita, you know, it's probably we probably don't understand this, but you know, the kids, they would lap onto it. You know, the NFTs lah, non-fungible tokens-nya dengan cryptocurrency, and somehow we have to prepare the platform for them to understand. So, but basically, metaverse is, I mean, if you watch the movie Ready Player One, that's metaverse lah. You know, you put on your VR, you are in a different world. You know, you put on your VR headset, your you can change yourself. You can be someone else. I can have hair in metaverse, contohnya. I can be built like Prof Siva. Oh, Prof Siva tak berapa sihat sekarang. Prof Siva dia tak lalu makan. So kalau ada siapa-siapa yang nak volunteer untuk suapkan dia makan, tolong email saya. Itu atas tu. Daripada sadar jadi kurus dah. We hope you recover lah, Prof. And by the way, Prof Siva, so his team is probably the first to have their policy paper accepted by the Kementerian, Prof Siva, and the team, Kementerian Perpaduan Negara. Fantastic. We are now, you know, whenever someone write dekat Singapore nama Mak Saleh, cepat je viral kan. Professor, no one is reading you. Yang tu yang cepat. Because it came from Singapore. It came from someone of a foreign name. Yang kita tengah buat banyak-banyak ni, tak ada. We're not going to forward that. And lepas tu kita kecoh lah. Oh yeah, betul. That's because we are too focused on research. Busy sangat research. We cannot have time to write. Tu yang buat policy paper tu. Yang kita dijemput buat macam-macam dekat kementerian. But no one wants to defend that. Kita pun dengar je lah. Yalah, itulah conclusionnya terhadap semua akademik di Malaysia. Why are we doing that to ourselves? Kita masih tak tahu. Anyway, so metaverse, you put on a VR, you want to own something in the digital world, you can, but you have to ambil duit, real money, go to a platform, change it into cryptocurrency, then you can buy those things. And if people were to buy from you, as long as that digital world exists, you have a transaction kat situ. So suddenly you play katalah Minecraft, ada tanah kat sana, digital, you have enough Bitcoin, you can purchase that tanah. Suddenly ada celebrity beli next to your tanah in the digital world and making your tanah lagi tinggi, and people want to buy, you can sell. But where's the proof? The proof is in the blockchain. So there's something called blockchain where it actually keep transaction record. So as I said, it's a completely new thing. So if 30% of administrators want to go on metaverse, pergilah, tapi I don't know what, you know, bolehlah pergi meeting dengan Dr. Musa. Tapi Dr. Musa tak nampak macam Dr. Musa kot. Maybe he staffer ke, taller ke, wallahu alam kan. Nama pun lain. That's the different experience. Will this become mainstream? Will someone be exceedingly rich in the digital world where then they can actually change that into the real world? It's anyone's guess. But when you put on that VR headset, which again, this is why we put VR headset dekat PTPM dan juga dekat Minden 11800, so that students, bayanglah, kita student yang 70% B40, some of them from Felda ke apa, in USM they get to experience all those at zero cost. And when they go out there, get interviewed, when ada interview kata, what is your experience? Oh, you've been in metaverse. Can you tell us a bit about metaverse? Dia boleh cerita, and they get a job. If you haven't experienced that, if you are in the field of architecture, it's fantastic. You can see 3D. And I think a lot of in the medical fraternity pun, esok nak mengajar anatomy dan sebagainya, you are immersed in that world. It is crazy. It's so convincing. If you have time, please experience that. I think Alam Bina ada some sets, PTPM ada sekarang, Minden 11800 ada. I think I don't know whether engineering is going to invest on that atau tidak. Again, if you have money, we can always give special budget next year. Every school kena beli at least 4 or 5 Oculus headset and experience the VR punya experience, the metaverse. Next. Soalan.
Okey.
Sekejap, berapa lama ni sesi sampai berapa?
Ada sehingga 12 suku.
Oh, orang puasa penat.
Okey, mungkin yang related sikit dengan apa yang Datuk terangkan tadi.
Ya.
Ada soalan berkenaan apakah perkembangan terbaru USM dalam bekerjasama dengan syarikat yang mempunyai teknologi AI, dan apakah yang USM dapat setakat ini untuk bantu menjana kewangan, dan ada penonton daripada USM Facebook yang bertanya ataupun ingin mendapatkan komen Datuk, apakah pandangan universiti tentang Bitcoin dan cryptocurrency ini?
Itu dah. Okey. Soalan susah. Yang pertama berkenaan dengan industri tadi. Macam saya katalah, whatever we do with the industry, it should benefit everyone. The industry, the academics, the staff, bukan staff PNP dan juga staff pelaksana to some extent. So, and also the most important are the students. So we have signed a lot of MOUs, a lot of MOAs as well. So these are the tiga company yang the first one, Boston Scientific, derma 6 juta, 6 million ringgit worth of equipment. It wouldn't happen if it's not for a few factors. One is Boston Scientific's confidence toward USM, or the recipient academics, or the recipient schools. They need to be convinced that if I give this 6 million, it will be put to great use. Obstar yang kata tadi 1,500, they have enough confidence towards 50 of our students to the point where they can offer 1,500 per month. So there are companies yang doing AI. For example, a company called SkyMind. So SkyMind actually have played a role in kita punya live program. Live program is for 2 weeks. Dia guna experiential point. Is meant to create students that have a larger world view. So seorang student cost us 1,000 ringgit. So we're hoping that companies will come in once the brand is good, Dell contohnya, to also contribute. Kalau kita nak expose 3,000 new students to life so that they learn about genomics and gerontology, computational and design thinking, financial literacy, grit, philosophy and grit, that is strength for the next 4 years, we need to raise 3 million ringgit each year. They will be sent to REDAC, they will be sent to CMAX, they will be sent to archaeology. By the time they finish life, our students, USM students, have a strong DNA. They see all the all the living labs. But for that, we need about 3 million a year. We can have that 3 million a year if we continue to work hard. So yes, other AI companies, but we haven't got many companies that want to set up their labs in the school. I2U dah penuh, thanks to Prof. Rahman punya team. Science at USM dekat Bukit Jambu dah penuh dengan company. And these are the people yang kita sign, kita kata, please take our students as intern. In fact, if you look at kita punya GE punya report, yang the more comprehensive one, what we found is that 30% of our students will end up working dekat multinational companies. And these are the people who will be getting 2,000, 3,000 ringgit per month kind of salaries. Then about 20% will be working with the government. And these are the students who will get less than 2,500 as a starting salary. Then there will be some students who will be working with the private sector, SMEs. These are mixed bag, some dapat lebih, some dapat kurang. The ones yang paling kurang adalah GLCs. Not many GLCs are taking our students, nor are they offering as many internship as possible. So engagement next will be with GLCs as well. So itulah dia saya punya ni. In terms of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, I think again, we are experimenting that dekat Minden 11800. So they accept cryptocurrency. But again, there are just so many things about cryptocurrency that is somewhat difficult to comprehend. Contohnya the value of the currency, it can fluctuate. It's just like the stock market. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal that one day you are rich and suddenly the next day you are poor? And to what end are we going to use this? Do we want to start allowing students to purchase our products using Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? Do you want them to pay our fees in cryptocurrency and then kita trade it off bila tengah mahal, contohnya kan? How is that seen in terms of the Syariah punya perspective? Is this considered as forex? Is it considered as gambling, or what? Is there an element of speculative? We don't know. But as an academic institution, these are things that we have to address. So we have to experiment. That's new knowledge, generate new knowledge. So we have that experiment, but personally as VC, I've not actually given any special funds, say to computer science, you guys do cryptocurrency. We don't have enough money for special budget to experiment on that for this year at least. Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk. Ada dua soalan daripada online, USM Facebook. Tetapi saya ingin buka peluang kepada penonton di DTSP. Satu soalan saja yang terakhir, jika ada daripada para penonton, boleh? Boleh ni. Prof, sila.
Ya, terima kasih. Datuk Wisi tadi ada sebut tentang program 2U 2I.
Yes.
Yang saya dapat perhatikan itu adalah bagi contohnya engineering, science yang memerlukan kemahiran yang spesifik yang tertentu. Saya dari School of Social Sciences. Jadi saya tahu untuk School Management mereka ada internship yang di mana adalah wajib, dan juga ada network di mana pelajar dapat placement for internship. So I'm thinking more for like School of Sciences, Humanities, Arts, that we do not have a very clear-cut so-called specific skill. So if the university can say do a roadshow to the industry to find out what the industry want from our student from a School of Arts, like Social Science, Humanities, they can meet their demand. So I think we can use this kind of program, but targeting social sciences, humanities, and arts students. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your question on this. I'm going to respond in a way. One, I think it is important that we do internship, and this is why kita put aside $1 million plus for students to do internship if companies doesn't want to pay for them, and some of the money is for internship in USM. Okay, if they're not comfortable going out there, they're going to get the space, then do it in USM. Now, if you look at the document issued by the government, the Economic Outlook for 2022, technical jobs have about 1.7 times gap, meaning to say we supply and we still have about 1.7 times gap with regards to filling the talent. But non-technical, in terms of marketing, communication and whatnot, 7.2 times gap. So the key would be, as you mentioned, how do we get students from humanities, social science and whatnot do well in the field that they pursue, but at the same time equip them that they can actually go into all these opportunities as well. This again why we introduced this life program, and we're about to introduce this midlife program for their skill sets, right? Penang is so desperate for talent that engineering companies are now not only recruiting engineers, but they're actually recruiting physicists, chemists, biological sciences, and maths graduates. That's how desperate things are. Now, if we can prove to the industry is that take social science as part of their 2U2I, or take them as an intern, and see if you can bridge that technical gap. That is the way to go. But this, if you need money, I will work for it to give you money. But you have to find that program for your students. And we're trying to do, as you know, we're trying to formulate this. But they have to go to, I shared the statistics from 2020 Graduate Employability Tracer Study. As I mentioned, one, if you are B40, the chances of you getting underemployed is larger. Tough. Second is, there's a 10% difference in terms of probability of getting an employment if students were to go to internship or not go to internship. 10%. This is the national average, meaning internship is important. And we probably have to rope in NGOs as well for this matter. So it is a relevant question. We provided you with data, and I'm all ears with regards to how to do this. I think we have to beef up life, I have to beef up midlife. Midlife ni apa? Midlife is going from second year to third year. We're going to teach them, the plan is to teach them tadi, metaverse and all things technology, so at least they have a superficial knowledge and they know what to look for, where to get the data, the information. We plan to teach them circular economy and poverty. So all USM students have to know about Gini coefficient, the poverty gap and whatnot. So they become compassionate citizens. Dia kena tahu walaupun dia bukan orang miskin, ada ramai orang miskin. Contohnya. The third is, I don't remember, but I think again, meant for people going from second to third year, it might be in the form of a summer program. So we don't allow them to go back for a break. They spend 3 weeks here to take those programs. But it's an investment so that, again, they become global citizens, they become compassionate people, responsible people, and hopefully they become more adventurous to try new things. And that is the most important thing, to nudge them to try new things beyond what they are comfortable doing. We have put in there, one of the KRA is that starting for intake 2022, HEPA will identify those students who are the first in the family to pursue a degree. That one, generation breakthrough, 60% first generation student. Ni KPT panggil dia sulung. I put a personal target that all sulung students or graduates of USM will have a job upon graduation, and they cannot be underemployed. 100% employed and 100% not underemployed. So that question is extremely relevant for the next 3-4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Any questions for my top management? Dia duduk depan ni for reasons sebenarnya tau. To answer question as well.
Ada satu soalan yang ni mungkin kepada dia berkenaan infrastruktur dan juga komputer. Soalannya yang menanya adalah Aji Liza. Datuk Isi, saya nak tahu komputer dan infra akan dinaik taraf. Okay. So Benari has come up with the plan untuk leasing of laptop dengan PC. Tapi itu lebih kepada makmal ataupun yang guna sama. So the question is, bila yang kita nak start replacing laptops dan PC? Sebab tu kita ada majlis teknologi maklumat di mana saya my pendapat saya adalah we have to extend this bring your own device policy ataupun allowance kepada semua staff. Tapi kita ada cap, maknanya setahun kita boleh letak 2.5 juta untuk bring your own device, and because academics from 35% of the population, academics is 20%, PNP 15% of the population, and the rest another 65% pelaksana. So that 2.5 million will be divided based on that percentage, that pot. And so kita extend 2.5 million, academics we pay you back 1,500 for the device that you buy, PNP maybe 1,700, 1,800 or even 2,000, dan pelaksana 2,200 contohnya.
That way you own that thing, you bring that to work. We don't have to put that in our inventory. You jagalah because it's yours. Kalau nak beli, nak tunggu giliran, payah. Cuma again lah, 2.5 million kalau kita kira, kalau semua dapat 2,500, it will be about 1,000 PCs per year. But with different allocation too, we maybe can stretch that to 1,500 maybe. We have 10,000 staff. If we assume 50% will need this, then it will take us 3 years to make sure that everyone has a new PC ataupun laptop. Itulah perancangan kita so far, setakat ni yang paling viable. Dan kalau kata again, if you have more money, then maybe in a year, kalau kita rasa kita boleh spare more, then kita kata for this year the pot is 4 million. First come, first serve. Tukar lah. Itu je. Itu je lah perancangan kita. I've been talking about special budget ni kan. So again lah, special budget ni is a risiko yang kita ambil. Tapi kita tak boleh berterusan. We cannot continue having labs that have not seen any improvement for God knows how long. I'm shocked to see the lab in engineering where some of the labs has never seen any improvement since we moved from Trono 20 years ago. It's not fair to staff and students. It's not fair. So kenalah spend macam mana pun. Work very hard, please. Get those new courses come in. Science and KL is investing. The master's program, the thought masters, the executive. I know it's difficult. I know it's taxing, but we are here for the university, and the university will appreciate that greatly. Lain soalan?
Okay, Datuk, last 2 questions. Daripada Kimberly Kong, about the USM Education Hub, you mentioned advanced kindergarten. Is this a gifted and talented program for young children? Is this about progressive educational offering, a child development lab?
Okay, thank you. This is the need statement. In fact, if it's based on RFP, bermaksud apa? The plan is, that's the 22.7 acres land. We ask for developers to develop this, and it's also the developers to also bring the content, meaning to say, if I'm the contractor who wants to bid for this, I know I'm going to spend about 50 million as my investment. I'm going to also identify which kindergarten I want to bring in, whether it's Montessori or whatever, but we can also set some conditions. So, a couple of things. One, if it's down to me, it has to be all. One, some experiments in terms of advanced education, which should be accessible to all our children, but also I think we need to also extend our PDK program, the one with dealing with special needs students, including those with learning disabilities, autism, and all those things. Simply because we have a growing number of children with that kind of conditions as well. So at this point of time, there's no there's no even planning. It's just a rough idea that we need to put something for early childhood plus students of a younger age. It can potentially be our feeder to USM, something along the Permata punya program as well, although I don't want to, let's not go there like the Permata punya program too. So yeah, we will have to concern ourselves with regards to first putting the RFP, and then we will have a say in terms of who will fill this up, and those companies that will fill it up have to have some kind of a USM element in that as well, the involvement of our academics, first right of refusal for our children to go first, or a special rate for our children. It's just like the gym that we opened, dekat Azman Hashim. So they charge commercial rate, but for our students, it's just 70 ringgit per month for 1 or 2 hour session, which doesn't happen in any commercial gym. For staff, it's about 100, if I'm not mistaken, per month. Or if you're interested on a personal trainer, it's 100 per session for 13 sessions. This kind of payment fees are not comparable to outside, but it's in the convenience of our workplace. So by all means, use that. It's pretty much the same approach as well with regards to this. Thank you.
Okay, Datuk. Last one from Sun Melon Amiruddin. Ini kawan saya ni, saya tahu ni. So saya tanya macam dia tanya lah.
Okay.
Datuk, apakah rancangan pihak pengurusan terhadap staf yang mempunyai masalah kesihatan mental? Kami ni ingin terus menyumbang khidmat kepada USM bukannya nak jadi beban pada USM. Dia tanya macam tu.
Saya pun akan jawab macam mana saya jumpa dia nanti lah kan. Ni, satu, kita macam ni. Pertamanya, saya nak bagi tahu, jangan tunggu sampai dia melarat. Maknanya kita memang ada kaunselor, kita ada pusat sejahtera, kita ada HUSM, kita ada specialist di IPPT yang deal with all this condition, and we also have academics yang work on the other scale, which is the happiness punya psychology as well. Kita satu keluarga, seek help, and as much as we can, we'll do. So kita di USM, memang kita put a lot of emphasis on well-being. Sebab tu kita self-insured, kita punya bayaran untuk kematian tinggi daripada universiti lain, jauh lagi tinggi daripada universiti lain. Sama lah kalau kata ada aksiden dan sebagainya, kita pergi lagi jauh. So sama lah juga dengan ni, kalau perlukan, kena pergi cari expert help. Jangan cari orang yang tak ada tauliah, lain jadi dia, kan? Dan juga kalau ada sebarang isu, contohnya macam isu kewangan, datang cari USM, tolong. Pusat Islam ada, jangan pergi kepada Along sampai dah melarat. Ada kes macam ni. USM ni ambil berat pada staf, sampaikan kalau kita perlu disiplinkan staf. Macam saya sebut sebelum ni lah, kita tanya dulu family dia macam mana, isteri dia kerja tak kerja, anak berapa. Kalau kita terpaksa buang, kita make sure kita offer isteri dia kerja kat sini dulu sementara. Lepas tu zakat pun bagi. Kita hantar ustaz-ustaz, ustazah pergi counselling family dan sebagainya. Kalau terpaksa buang, sampai itu sekali je, bagilah. Dan duit tu masuk ke account wife. Kalau kata husband tu ada ketagihan dadah contohnya, itu yang kita sanggup buat untuk staff. Jadi jangan assume, jangan buat andaian, datang cari kita bantu selagi boleh. Saya tak tahu apa yang jadi masalah mentalnya tu, dia apa sebabnya. Tapi satu lagi macam kita sebutlah, kita percaya staff. Kalau masalah kewangan, sebab tu kita percaya kita bagi je allowance tu masuk account. Sebelum ni kena bawa receipt kan, kena check, lepas tu kita check pula kau menipu ke tak. Kalau tipu, cari pula, pergi disiplin. Kita buat yang tu. So bila dapat tu, bawa bincang. Kalau kata ada finance tu, apa yang nak didulukan, nak bayar hutang sikit untuk anak nak dulukan dan sebagainya. Dan kalau ada lebih, barulah reward yourself. Benda macam tu lah kan. Benda-benda yang kalau kita tak berapa nak mahir, tanyalah. Ramai je yang nak mahir dari segi financial punya arrangement ni. So itulah kot. Sebab tu again, work from home pun antaranya sebab tu lah. Kalau rasa terpaksa berulang daripada Sungai Petani dan sebagainya, penat setiap hari macam tu, work from home lah, 2 hari, rehat lah. Buatlah kerja tu, tapi bagi tahulah kat mana. Daripada kita cari sebab datang lambat, pergi tipu MC-nya, kena marah dan sebagainya, kita faham. Jangan tipu MC ni. Dia antara kesalahan yang berat yang terpaksa kita disiplinkan. Sama ada potong gaji ataupun tidak beri tahan kenaikan gaji dan sebagainya. Dah ada facility work from home, cakap dengan bos, guna. Tapi janganlah orang kata larat, carilah juga. Kalau kata ada yang ada masalah ketagihan dan sebagainya, bagi tahu awal, kita hantar ke ADK. Jangan sampai kita tangkap. Kita tak suka nak buang-buang staff ni sebenarnya, tapi kalau katalah kita ni pekerja yang pemandu ataupun keselamatan yang ada masalah dadah, macam mana kita nak buat? Orang hantar anak ke sini based on percaya. Kalau mak bapak kita sendiri tahu keselamatan ada ketagihan dadah, macam mana? Ni yang bawa anak kita pergi berjalan tu, dia driver, dia under the influence. Berapa kali kita dengar news kat Malaysia, dah mati, dah berpuluh-puluh orang mati, baru tahu oh dia ni under influence of drugs. So benda macam itulah. Please seek help. Ketua jabatan, kaunselor dan sebagainya. Jangan segan. It's okay. Okay.
Okay tak?
Okay, kalau saya ingat dah habis kot 12 suku.
Okay dah, kita dah habis. Kita sum up everything. Kita beri tepukan untuk Yang Bahagia Profesor Datuk Naib Canselor atas perkongsian dan ucapan hari ini. Dan sementara kita beri ruang kepada tetamu hormat bersama fotografer untuk bergambar, kita beri peluang. Penonton di DTSP, anda okey? Okey tak okey? Kalau okey, tunjuk thumbs up. 1. Yeah. Baik, kita beri peluang untuk tetamu kenamaan bergambar dahulu di pentas. Dan bro, lagu raya. Datuk main drum ni. Baik, Pro Azizi nak nyanyi lagu raya satu. Balik kampung. Baik, tuan-tuan dan puan, jangan ke mana-mana, kita akan bergambar bersama-sama selepas ini, selepas sesi bergambar tetamu kenamaan. Jadi tunggu sebentar. Baik, kita jemput fotografer untuk bergambar. Baiklah tuan-tuan dan puan, kepada yang yang perlu mengisi link kehadiran boleh dapatkan barcode di hadapan pintu masuk, mungkin tinggal tadi. Dan kepada para penonton di mungkin USM, Facebook dan sebagainya, boleh, mungkin sudah ada link ya. Sudah ada link. Baik, kita terdapat isyarat daripada Angkasa Puri ya, kata ada link ya. Baiklah tuan-tuan dan puan, saya mewakili pihak penganjur mengucapkan banyak terima kasih kepada semua yang telah sudi hadir ke perjumpaan bersama Naib Canselor. Dan sudilah apa kiranya kita terus bersama-sama bekerjasama dengan semua pihak yang berada di universiti ini untuk memastikan kita terus cemerlang dan mencapai apa hasrat yang telah ditetapkan.